Session. The first item up is visitors and public comments. Are there any members of the public here to make comments? Or here none. The next item up is the Strategic Ed Committee.
Priscilla's here somewhere.
So if the board members, the full presentation is left on your table here.
Okay.
What was sent out in board docs is part of this, so this is the complete document that was sitting there.
Does this include what was sent in board docs?
Correct. So this document right here includes it all, and then what's in that folder, correct me if I'm wrong, what's in the folder are supplemental documents.
Is there a chance we can get everything in an electronic format? So
Absolutely.
we not have to keep having to
Yes,
find the
if it's
questions we
updated,
had in
we'll get
there?
We'll
We
get
just got it today, and I have already added it to board docs.
Thanks, Julie.
The full one or
Yes,
the,
this one was added to board docs.
and
But
this is not? Is
those
this,
sheets that were just handed out,
Yes, sir. Those sheets are part of the board docs. Those are just extra additions. They're in the slide deck already. I just brought them out to highlight because
Extra hard copies.
that's the meat of the presentation. Yes, ma'am.
And Julie put in there on yeah,
and board docs.
and board. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we're waiting on
Waiting on
Strategic Ed.
Priscilla.
Mr. Reichenbach, would you be able to check and see if Ms. Jeffries right out? You see Ms. Jeffries?
Now you should start with. Ready to go?
Hey.
they were forwarded that email that you sent.
Okay. Strategic, oh, I guess yeah. Never had to do.
Perfect. Good afternoon, Mr. Baroi, Board of Trustees. Well, I'm going to start off and kick things off with the Strategic Education Committee and an introduction or a continuation of the programming for the Centers for Advanced Studies. So that's just my intro slide. That's our office, Career and Technology Education. There's my email and my phone number in case you're interested, you have any additional further questions, comments, or concerns. So, a snapshot of what career and technology education is in Charleston County School District. Just a quick orientation. On the top left, you can see those are the 4 tenets of our organizational structure around strategic planning, academic and technical skills, work-based learning, and career guidance. Those are the 4 pillars of everything we do to support C3R, college, career, and citizenship readiness. On the top right, you see our mission, rigorous and relevant coursework. Courses have to have rigor and also apply and be relevant to a career cluster or a career opportunity. Academic, technical, and employability training. So academic, of course, we're teaching math and science and social studies and English in our CTE classes, but we are also providing technical training. We are designing buildings, we're creating profit loss statements, we're swinging hammers, we are operating hydraulic pumps, we're repairing computers, we're programming, all those technical skills required for those careers. And then last but not least, employability training. So that is teamwork, resiliency, conflict management, productivity, being dependable, all those employability skills that the senior HR executives are looking for in our future students and their future employees. CTE is not just high school. CTE starts in elementary school. And as you see, I provided a quick snapshot of the continuum of what CTE looks like currently in Charleston County School District, starting in kindergarten through 5th grade. That's where we begin what's called career awareness, job shadowing, career fairs, mentoring, guest speakers coming into the school. And then in the blue box, you see what it could look like in our elementary schools, or what it does. We have some Project Lead the Way classes in our elementary schools. Teachers are teaching those employability soft skills at a basic level. And then we're also initiating the transition counseling going from elementary to middle school. Now in middle school, we are beyond awareness. We're in career exploration, project-based learning, their college tours, job shadowing. Our career specialists are working with middle school educators, administrators, parents, and students, kind of taking an interest inventory. Who are you? What are you interested in? What a future could look like. Some courses you see, we have digital literacy, multimedia basics, computer apps, Project Lead the Way, Gateway to Technology. Thousands of our middle school students are engaging in STEM-type instructional strategies throughout Charleston County. And then we have the most important conference that I believe in Charleston County, and that is the 8th grade individual graduation plan. That's when the student, the parent, the guidance counselor, they sit down and they determine a first go at it, what the future high school plan would look like as the child vertically matriculates from middle school to high school, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, and ultimately graduating college and or career ready. And then finally, the student enters in high school. There are some activities that we currently practice throughout our secondary schools in Charleston County. Student-run enterprises, so those are career technology student organizations. We have businesses, internships, apprenticeships, professional interactions with subject matter experts in the field. We have students that are CTE concentrators and completers, and I'll go into that a little bit more in detail. And these completer programs culminate with a certification and or a credential. So that's some of the activities. You can see it's awareness, it's exploration, preparation, K through 12. So what does it look like in high schools? I provided a folder at your desk that shows a snapshot in a bullet Excel spreadsheet of which programs are at what schools in Charleston County. And as you can see, we have CTE programs throughout. So that's more of a reference for you. That chart is also on our website, charlestonempowered.com, and that gets updated as programs build and develop. So, this slide, since we're focusing on the North Charleston and the West Ashley Center for Advanced Studies, this afternoon I'm going to introduce or remind you of the programs that are in District 4, District 9, 10, and 23, just to give you a current posture of what CTE looks like. You can see at North Charleston High School and Military Magnet, R.B. Stahl, and Garrett Academy of Technology. Those are CTE instructional programs. A CTE instructional program is a sequence of courses outlined by the State Department of Education, where a child goes from an introductory level to level 2, sometimes level 3, level 4, and the child, if successfully navigates through those courses, earns a CTE completion. Also, there's a certification or a credential tied to that. So those schools at those sites have those opportunities available, or are building those opportunities or developing them currently, as of today. On the top right are just some examples of some internships and apprenticeships that some of our students participate. Internships can be during the school year, like during period 4 in the fall. They can be in the summertime. Sometimes they are paid. And sometimes students can receive a work-based credit. So they receive an elective credit towards graduation and also an elective credit towards their CTE completion. On the bottom right, just a snapshot, really cool picture of North Charleston students. They actually designed and built that project and that facility so that they can practice with sea perch underwater robotics. So that's District 4. As we move on to Districts 9, 10, and 23, so we're swinging to the other side of Charleston County, Baptist Hill Middle High School, St. John's High School, and West Ashley High School. Again, all of these programs are outlined in that bullet chart that I provided just for your reference. That bullet chart also has the other schools throughout Charleston County, but here are Johns Island, West Ashley, and Baptist Hill neighborhood in Charleston County. You see a wide variety of high skill and high demand high-wage occupations, and we'll talk more about it as we go forward. I believe the board has been briefed on our talent demand study that was provided by the Charleston Metro Chamber of Commerce. Originally, the first one was in 2014, then there was an update in 2016, and then a final one was just completed in 2018. The purpose you might be aware of the talent demand study, is to identify those career clusters or those industries that are driving employment in the Charleston metro area. That's Charleston, Berkeley, and Dorchester counties. Also, what the Chamber was able to do was to create a gap analysis. And a gap analysis is used to determine how many of what graduates we're graduating out of Charleston County, and then what the need is above and beyond. So what I've done here was I've actually sliced two reports into one. On the left was from 2016, and you can see those career clusters. Those are employment numbers. As you can, medical, for instance, is 35,900, the largest employer in the area. And then on the right is 2018. That is a list of the gaps that are projected, that are beyond what we're graduating in Charleston, Berkeley, and Dorchester. This is a regional document. Production mechanical, software, construction, hospitality. Okay, I'm gonna spend a little time on this slide. This slide outlines our thinking, our work, our collaboration when determining which programs would go into the North Charleston and the West Ashley CAS. I'll start on the left with the guiding principles. Those 5 guiding principles drove everything that we do a program. Livable wage. We all know the living wage is the amount of income that a family would need to provide a decent standard of living. We want to make sure that our graduates, our full-time workers, have enough money to live above and beyond the poverty line. Everything we do is data-driven, so that's connected with local, state, and federal employment data, as well as local, state, and federal Department of Education accountability indicators. Our future readiness, are we preparing our kids for the future? Are they going to be college, career, and citizenship ready with these types of programs that we're offering in Charleston County? Also, we want lifelong learners, so once you graduate from high school, you are not done. You are required to get additional and further training. So how are we preparing those students for that? Industry credentials. We're looking at what the industry values. We have some credentials that are valued by local employers, national and international organizations, as well as our State Department of Education and the Education Oversight Committee. We try to marry the industry and the education world together. Also looking at what credentials are portable. So if a child or a student in Charleston County earns a credential, they can take that and travel to another part of the country, and that credential will still be valuable. So that's something that we looked at as well. And then workforce alignment. We're looking at the career opportunities in our neighborhood. In Charleston, in North Charleston, all throughout Charleston County. We're also looking at what job shadowing and internship and apprenticeship opportunities are available for our kids. So those are the 5 guiding principles when looking at what types of program. And then on the right, that's the last 12 months of work, just looking at our mission, our values, our strategic plan, having listening and working sessions with a variety of community, educational, and industry groups, looking at Power School for data, historical data. We've analyzed it, we aggregated it. We studied enrollment and concentration, completer data. We looked at course scheduling. We looked at future trends. Let's look at my notes real quick. Let's see, what else did I? Oh, Bureau of Labor Statistics, so Department of Labor puts out information every year looking at different careers and different career clusters, looks at statistical data, what it takes to have a decent standard of living in the United States and also in the Charleston metro area. We also talked with the Office of Career and Technology Education and the Association of Career and Technical Education. They provide a lot of guidance and a lot of leadership in regards to what programs are in demand in the next 5 and 10 years, what career clusters we would be interested in introducing throughout Charleston County. And we also talked with our post-secondary partners, 2-year schools, 4-year schools, technical schools, research industries. We have our CTE Advisory Council. They provide us with employment needs and relevancy of existing programs that we have, bridge programs and partnerships. So, you know, that's, I mean, that doesn't do it justice, but you can see just some of the items that we looked at when looking at which types of programs we think would most benefit our students. Of course, Trident Technical College is our favorite partner. We know we send lots of students to Trident Tech. They have their courses and programs. We want to make sure that our programs vertically articulate and align strategically with what the technical college offers. We've also visited other schools. We went to 2-year schools and 4-year schools and colleges. We went to universities. We went to Richland County and Chapin County and Pickens County and Lexington Tech Center. We've been to Raleigh, we've been to Nashville, we've been to San Antonio. We've went to national conferences and symposiums. So it's been fun and it's a lot of work, but we've learned a lot and we're ready to bring what we've learned, best practices, right here to Charleston County School District. Okay, just a reminder of some dates over the past 12 months or so. These are some dates that we've come in front of the board to present those instructional programs for both North Charleston and West Ashley Center for Advanced Studies. About a year and a half ago, we came here for North Charleston. Earlier this year, we presented to the Board of Trustees to discuss what career clusters, programs, and scope of work, what we were doing up to that time, including the designing and the architecture of the facility. Then we brought West Ashley in March, and then later on in March, our CTE Advisory Council reviewed and approved the career clusters that I'm presenting to you this afternoon. Okay, so in your package, you'll see I'm going to provide what career clusters and instructional programs we're recommending for the CAS. I've also provided in a manila envelope a one-pager for each one of those. And what I want to do is just orient you to what it looks like and how it reads so that you can follow along, and then you can apply that to all 7 of those career clusters. So let's start first with the architecture and construction. So first thing I want you to notice is, what is architecture and construction? What does it look like for a high school or a tech center? So you start on the left and you see the coursework that is provided in a typical architecture and construction program. We have Intro to Construction and Building Construction, 4-course sequence, so that they discuss tools and blueprints, framing, roofing, exterior, interior trimming, footings and foundations. So there's masonry, electrical switches and outlets, there's plumbing, there's drainage systems. So it's really a general, exhaustive and comprehensive overview of what the building construction and architecture and construction career field could look like. Tied to those standards are industry certifications. Those are valued by our local employers as well as the Education Oversight Committee. The Education Oversight Committee has determined that those industry certifications will deem a high school graduate career ready. So NCCER has carpentry, core, electrical, plumbing, and masonry, as well as the Residential Construction Academy has electrical principles and wiring. On the right, you'll see high school diploma. With this program and those certifications, those are just 3 select occupations that require a high school diploma with a certificate. I've also provided the median salary for those, and that's all from the Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics, as well as the Lexile level of the reading complexity, of the median reading complexity that would be required. So as you can see, with a high school diploma and a certification, a construction laborer and helper could expect a median salary of around $33,000, $34,000 a year, and with a reading Lexile level of 1130. And just FYI, Lexile levels, the State Department has determined college and career ready for a 9th and 10th grader is somewhere between 1,000, 1,050, 1,100, 1,150, and then for an 11th and 12th grader, 1,150, 1,200, 1,300, up towards that level. So really, 9th to 12th grade is anywhere from 1,000 to 1,400. That's what the expectations are in high school text complexity. So you can see that a carpenter, median salary of about $45,000 requires about 1130 Lexile, somewhere between a 9th and 10th grade reading level, depth of complexity that we administer in Charleston County. Same with construction equipment operator, $46,000, same level.
Mr. Gordon, just real quickly, I may have missed this, but is this the structure of both the CASs, or are you offering different programs at the different CASs?
Excellent question. So I'm providing a holistic overview to all of the programs that we are providing in the North Charleston CAS, the West Ashley CAS, or both the North Charleston and West Ashley CAS.
So there are programs that kids in North Charleston won't get at their CAS that kids in West Ashley will get, and vice versa.
At this time, that's correct.
What determines that, Cindy?
However, though, there are, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
No, I didn't say anything.
Yes, ma'am, and I'll have a list of those as we go towards the end. So now the next step, as I go to the right, you'll see a certificate. So Trident Technical College and Midlands Tech provide certifications that are aligned with the programs at our school as well. So you see they offer architectural, construction, electrical, and surveying, as well as Midlands Tech, and now sample occupations with those certificates. You can see plumbers, pipe fitters, electricians, construction and building inspectors, Lexile levels as well. As you see, the Lexile level creeps up a little bit as you go into some of the more demanding occupation fields. Next step is an associate's degree at Trident Technical College. Those are 3 of the degrees offered, as well as Midlands Tech. And then with an associate's degree, a surveyor, first-line supervisor, salary, and Lexile level as well. Last but not least, a bachelor's degree at Clemson, SC State, or USC in some of those career fields, architecture, engineering, electrical engineering, land surveying, and then sample median salaries of select occupations with a bachelor's degree and a credential, architect, civil engineering, construction managers. So that's an orientation to just the architecture and construction cluster. So as I go through, you'll see here's advanced manufacturing. Advanced manufacturing is mechatronics, integrated technologies, which is mechanical, electrical technologies, hydraulics, pneumatics. It's training and programming robots to do the jobs that humans used to do, certifications, then certificates at Trident Tech and Midlands. It vertically articulates to Trident Tech and Midlands Tech, as well as a bachelor's degree at Clemson, SC State, and USC in manufacturing. And then on the right, you can see several programs, careers for those who may be interested in advanced manufacturing. Assemblers, welders, mechanical technicians, as well as engineers. Next slide, transportation, distribution, and logistics. Excuse me. Coursework could include automotive collision, automotive technology, global logistics and supply chain management, intro to logistics. Those are our certifications, ASC certification, ICAR, which is more towards automotive collision and repair technology. We also have certificates at Trident Tech and Midlands Tech. So you see some automotive, but also some Lean Six Sigma supply chain management at Midlands. Associate's degree, automotive welding supply chain, general technology, as well as a bachelor's degree, Clemson, SC State, and USC. And some occupations on the right side to include median salary and Lexile level. Next slide is information technology. We like to offer IT. That's computer repair and service, it's computer programming, it's networking, web page design and development, it's IT fundamentals, also cybersecurity as well, if we can get to that developmental level. We have industry certifications, Cisco, CompTIA, Oracle, Microsoft Technology Associate. Trident Tech and Midlands Tech have a robust information technology department, an associate's degree program as well at both universities, and then again, Clemson, SC State, and USC. And on the right, you can see some of the occupations, the sample occupations, salaries, and Lexiles for each one of those occupations. Next slide. Here's our STEM career cluster. Our STEM, that's a pre-engineering, principles, aerospace engineering, civil engineering and architecture, engineering design and development, also introduction to computer science as part of our STEM career cluster. Some certifications, both at Trident Tech and Midlands, associate's degree and bachelor's degree in engineering and engineering technology, as well as careers, median salary and Lexile level. Media technology. Media technology is a completed program that's pre-production, studio operations, audio, video production facilities, also using the devices, and then post-production. So that's editing, revising, and marketing, distributing. Those are the certifications. Trident Technical College has a media technology program that our students can articulate to, as well as Clemson, SC State, and the University of South Carolina in media arts, film, journalism, broadcasting, communication, digital arts as well. And on the right, you can see the career clusters for a high school, associate's degree, and bachelor's degree, and Lexile levels to go. Health science technology. one of our hottest career clusters in the Charleston metro area. We want to offer health science, sports medicine, and then biomedical sciences, which is human body systems, biomedical innovations, and medical interventions. You can see their certifications, certified nurse assistant, patient care technician, emergency medical technicians. There's billing, there's basic life support, and OSHA as well. Trident Tech has certificates, and they also have a robust health science department. You can see all those associates of science degrees at Trident Tech in dental, emergency, medical, nursing, pharmacy. All that articulates to Clemson, USC, and SC State. And then on the right, you can see the occupations for each one of those steps or each one of those exit ramps for our students in Charleston County. So I'd like to stay on this slide for a second because that reminds me, these CTE programs are for all of our students if they show an interest. So if my child was interested in being a doctor and we walk into the guidance office and they present this continuum of what this occupation could look like, my child has options of taking a health science technology completer program, earning a certificate, summer internships and apprenticeships, and can leave the school and exit and go work as an emergency medical technician or a medical lab assistant, making over $30,000 a year with benefits, with 401k, sick time, and paid vacation, tuition reimbursement at Trident Technical College, and zero debt. And that would be a success. Or my child can decide to go on to Trident Technical College and earn an additional certificate, a stackable credential, and then can be more competitively advantaged, become a pharmacy tech or a medical lab tech, and now upwards of $40,000 a year. Again, with all those same benefits. Or get an associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, and then you can see all the different opportunities. Not once did I mention medical school or dental school. All of these are occupations that are available and in demand right now in Charleston. So the next two slides shows a snapshot of which programs for each one of the Center for Advanced Studies. You can see that I talked about media technology, health science, IT, STEM, architecture, construction, manufacturing, and transportation, distribution, and logistics. Interested in offering those at the North Charleston Center for Advanced Studies. As well as West Ashley High School, again, arts, health science, IT, STEM, manufacturing, as well as transportation, distribution, and logistics. When these facilities are up and running, including the home schools that these students are a part of, students at North Charleston High School will have access to 9 career clusters as part of the South Carolina Department of Education Career and Technology Education Program. What that means is that a child at North Charleston High School, if they decide that one of these career clusters, they show an interest, whether it's through career counseling, a career specialist, a teacher, a principal, a parent, a faith-based leader, they can choose one of the programs at the CAS, or they can choose to stay at North Charleston High School, where they are a student, and take one of those CTE programs. So the home schools will still retain their successful CTE programs as we go forward with the CAS.
I got a question for you, too.
Yes, sir.
Can you repeat that a little bit slower?
I'm sorry.
When you have the CAS up and running, did I hear you say you'll still have CTE completer courses inside the individual high schools?
That's correct.
And why is that?
Oh, go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
When school systems put in place career and technology education centers, it's to put those high-interest programs where students from across the county can enroll, and usually the more expensive, the programs that you can't replicate in all your high schools.
Well, that's
So-
the question. That's
Right.
why I was asking.
It's a really good question.
But I asked CTE completer courses, and he said yes, so they are certificate
We will
courses.
still have, what he's done, and this is really outstanding work, he's mapped out the CTE program offerings across the county. And then he sat down and looked at which programs are very expensive to offer, what might draw across different attendance lines. He developed those for the CAS.
And then, so
So not everything can be replicated in every high school. Rich, would you add anything to that?
okay.
Thank you.
All right. I got a question for you, too. For example, I know Wando's already up and running, their Center for Advanced Studies. But how does the North Charleston and West Ashley advanced studies, the programs line up, how do they compare what's being offered at Wando?
How do they compare?
Yeah, do you have the list of the ones being offered at Wando?
I do, so I provided that in your packet, so you'll see there's a bullet,
What page is it on?
there's a bullet page in your manila envelope that shows programs are at Wando High School.
See, but you don't have it in this form, I see. Okay, you have quite a bit, okay. So let me ask you this, a person that wants to go in, wants to be a high school teacher, for example, and say they live in North Charleston, which career, according to this cluster, which cluster will they choose for what's being offered at the center?
Good question. So to be a teacher, they can choose from a variety of clusters. So any one of these clusters could potentially lead to a career in education. So if they were interested in being a math teacher, they can take math classes at their high school, and then they can go to college and take more math classes or education psychology classes, adolescent development classes, and get a bachelor's degree. And then they could either enter the teaching profession or go to graduate school and get like a master's degree in education. But like myself, for instance, I was a math teacher, so I took math classes in high school and college. Science teachers would do the same, social studies, English, foreign language, and we do need teachers in these fields as well. So any one of these students can take any one of these courses, and if they go to college, they can use those as to strengthen their core of what they want to teach, as well as take some of those education classes as they go.
A person, for example, wants to be a general education teacher. Maybe they want to be an elementary school teacher.
Okay.
Or a middle school teacher. Do we have a pathway carved out that when they complete this program and they enter their college, they pretty much have lots of credits toward that degree already? Like maybe say they want to go to Clemson or go to College of Charleston. Do we have a pathway set in the North Charleston Advanced Center or West Ashford that when they come out, they're prepared to go straight into that field because we prepared them?
Well, yeah, we have a pre-teaching called Teacher Cadet Program at our high schools. And a Teacher Cadet Program is not part of the Centers for Advanced Studies, but high schools have these Teacher Cadet Programs where students can practice or train or what it's really like to be a teacher, and then go through that. It doesn't necessarily mean that when they go to college, they're going to have credits for college,
right.
But it still gives them a background and experience of what that looks like when they go to college.
So the reason for my question is that, every year we hire people from Kelly, some hundreds of people to come in and substitute teach for us. So I'm thinking that if we're going to have an advanced Center for Advanced Study anywhere, we ought to be supporting teaching, that we produce our own teachers to come and work with us eventually. Hopefully they'll work with us eventually, but if not, they at least go somewhere in the world and work. So I think that would be a vital part to have that pathway included in here, teaching.
We also have AP courses. We have
I know.
one high school with an IB program. We have dual enrollment courses. Those courses also can build the first 2 years of anyone who wants to go into teaching.
Right,
So
I just want something more
They get the
pointed.
prerequisites out of the way the first 2 years of college. So we
I just want a
have,
pointed program, something more pointed and geared toward that. That's what I'm asking for.
we have a lot of multiple pathways if you want to be a teacher, and a lot of paths that'll get you there. It doesn't necessarily have to go in that Center for Advanced Studies. In fact, we probably can do that better at the high schools. But we do have that, and I'll be glad to sit down and share
Yeah,
that
I'd like to
with
get
you.
an update to see how we're doing with that.
Rich?
Yes, ma'am.
So having worked with a number of adolescents, they change their minds a lot. So is
They
there
do.
an accommodation for, I don't really want to do math, I want to do
Yes,
video recording or something?
So every year, students are required to participate in that IGP conference when they're 8th graders, 9th graders, 10th graders, 11th graders. At that time, those kinds of questions are asked. So let's talk about the class. How did it go? Do you still like it? Here are some, you do like it? That's great. Let's take it to the next level. You're having second thoughts. Okay, well, let's relook or let's reconfigure our strategy so that we can still get the high school diploma and still gain valuable experience towards whatever their career future can look like. So that happens annually with the guidance counselor.
Okay, so, because they could go down one path
and then really need credits in a different.
They can take multiple paths. I've had students in my school that were CTE completers in 2 career clusters, a highly motivated student. But I've also had students that were not CTE completers. They were more of their core classes: English, math, science, social studies, foreign language, maybe computer science, advanced placement, international baccalaureate, the multiple opportunities for a variety of students throughout Charleston County.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it Kevin
Yeah.
next?
Hey, good evening.
Good afternoon.
rather.
Yes, sir.
Question. Let me back up for a second and go back to where I want to be at. If a child wants to pursue a degree program in a 4-year college,
Yes, sir.
the only classes they can obtain in high school are the advanced studies that they get in math and English that will get them a credit in their freshman year, correct?
We also have dual credit classes,
Yeah, they still count for
advanced
college
placement, and then international baccalaureate classes.
Yeah.
Those classes can provide students with college credits while they're still a student in high school. Is
Yeah.
that what you mean?
credit. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So there's nothing in the CES program that will give that type of credit.
We can offer dual credit opportunities. So that's something that we're exploring with the post-secondary schools. So as we start developing, as we continue to develop and build the curriculum and this course sequencing, what we'll do is reach out to our post-secondary partners and determine if some of these courses can count for both a high school and a college credit.
So coming out of the CES program, if a student completes, 2 years of the program and come out of high school, do they get a certificate in the area? Or they just basically, that's it?
Well, there are some programs that are, well, let me start over by saying that some completer programs are 3 semesters, some are more, some are 4 semesters. When a student's complete a program, they get a certificate that says, I'm a completer. However, the gold standard is to get that certificate or that credential. So we have to be very strategic and purposeful when we align the curriculum with those specific industry credentials. That's what the employers want to see. They want to see the certificate, they want to see the credentials so that they're prepared for when they step onto the workforce. Yes, sir.
You'll match them up with a career.
Every one of these completer programs will be matched up with a certification.
So what determines the student ability to get into the CS program? What criteria will be in place for them that you require for them to enter into that program?
So we still have to flush those details out. Those courses, the vast majority of courses at the CAS, the introductory courses, do not require a prerequisite. So we're looking for students that have a general interest in wanting to do these careers. We'll also have to work with guidance counselors to identify which students will go into the CAS. We still have to do work on that.
So in taking the current structure, what's going on in our district now in North Charleston, when the CAS is due to go up in 2 years, is it 2 years, Cindy?
2021, isn't it?
2021?
20 months.
2020.
And the way North Charleston is now, do you see any of those students, I guess, what's that, 9th grade, Cindy? 9th or 10th?
10th graders will be
10th
in.
graders that would be able to qualify to enter into that program?
The current North Charleston high school students or middle school students?
No, high school.
Yes, so if there's a 9th grader currently in North Charleston, whether they go to Stall or North Charleston High School, I see them having the opportunity to participate at the North Charleston CAS.
One more question, Todd. Oh, Todd, go.
It's me.
And in the CTE program, what courses will those be remaining in that school,
School, sir.
in North Charleston High?
Okay, so, well, here's a map of North Charleston High School, so I'm just going to work off of just my knowledge, my memory. So transportation's at the CAS, IT is at the CAS, architecture, construction at the center, STEM is at the center, but there'll also be STEM at North Charleston, arts, audio, video, communications, there's digital art and design, that will stay at North Charleston High School, but also media technology will be at the CAS, manufacturing, that's mechatronics, that's at the CAS, health science technology will transition to the CAS from North Charleston. North Charleston will retain the hospitality and tourism, they have culinary arts management, that will remain at North Charleston, law, public safety, security, corrections and security. North Charleston has our only law enforcement CTE program that will stay at North Charleston High School, and I just went around the whole map.
Okay. Give me 1 second, Cindy.
Forget me.
So then, coming out of the present Garrett High School, Garrett Technology, what will transfer over and what will not be transferred over out of that program?
So at Garrett currently, the programs that we are interested in transferring over would be the health science technology, the information technology. They have a web and digital communications. STEM, they have a pre-engineering Project Lead the Way program. We're interested in transitioning that over, as well as the automotive collision repair technology. That's the more successful program that leads to certification. We found a partner in the North Charleston area that wants to work with our kids with work-based learning experiences. Digital art and design is at Garrett. That's already at North Charleston High School, so those students can continue there. We have business and marketing. Stall High School has, because there's also Stall High School as well in North Charleston, so I don't want to mix it up. There's business classes. Entrepreneurship is offered at both Stall and North Charleston, so we're going to continue entrepreneurship, as well as culinary arts is currently at Garrett, and that will transition to North Charleston High School, so those students can still participate in that experience as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Mr.
I just
Gordon,
have
Yes, ma'am.
one more, Priscilla.
okay, first off, this is brilliant, and wow. I can only hope that this is in every, I want this hanging in every hallway and every, I mean, this is brilliant. There's just no other words for how you can, I wish this had existed when I was in school. Thank you.
Me too.
You did all right. So, to back up, because we're kind of getting in the weeds of the actual courses, because the bottom line is our job as a board is to provide the education students need to obtain the jobs. We've got the jobs and the clusters, so we have our charge. But when we started talking about the CAS, we've had so many different versions of the conversation, I think we kind of need to step back. I thought that the CASs were designed so that they would be your completer facilities, and they were going to bring equity to the district so that if you lived in West Ashley and you wanted something, we were now going to be able to provide it at the CAS in West Ashley, and we wouldn't have West Ashley children at Wando. And that's just a very small example.
Okay.
And at one time, we were talking about the fact that inside the high schools, we would do like the first 2 years of a completer or the beginning of a completer, and then the CAS had to be a standalone facility for certain certifications and state education rules that made it better for you to deliver CAS education. Now I'm hearing that we're going to have some CAS completers inside high schools, which now means apparently you're not getting the flexibility that you needed when you told us you needed to build a CAS. Again, goes back to the fact that you have students in certain high schools that are not going to be offered the same programs that are offered strictly in career technology in other high schools. So kind of give us a global vision. How are we to tell our community that this process means that the children are getting equitable options in their area? Because now I'm getting confused. I thought that the CAS was for CTE courses. Now I'm hearing some high schools have CTE courses, but I thought we were going to build CASs to eliminate the stresses of that. So can we just kind of take a bigger global picture that says, how does this, with Mount Pleasant, West Ashley, downtowns, and North Charleston's CAS system create equity throughout the district?
Okay.
I was just going to add that we currently do not have a career and technical education center that's drawing a school report card for that type of program currently. So
What does that mean?
That means we don't, for example, many large counties that are our size would have CTE offerings in their high schools, and then they have these career and technology centers. And that's where you put those programs that are very expensive, where you can't afford to replicate all the programming, and it draws a CTE report card that's designed just for that center. It looks at completers, it looks at licensure, it's designed to, it's built around, that report card's built around metrics for that center.
Let's step back one thing. So then the CAS is going to be for these large, expensive, but necessary programming to provide for our children.
That's
That's one-
correct, and it will be, if we go to the South Carolina State Department of Education website, there is a model for career and technology education. There's a model, there's a state model, there are national models.
Right, I've read
Currently,
those.
we don't have that in
Right.
Charleston.
So, but it's our job to take that kind of information and be able to explain to our parents what to expect. And right now, I don't think anybody on this board's able to do that.
You could probably
So
put
when
in a
you
few
take-
talking points if that's helpful.
I can.
I could explain it.
I
Okay, so
understand it.
what's the choice between North Charleston High School and Stahl High School for their completers inside the high school?
I would look at that list and tell them. But I mean, I don't have an issue, I think.
It's not an issue per se. You just said you didn't have a question, but can anybody tell us why there's going to be completer courses inside high schools and how that differs from 2 years ago when we were in a meeting and you said we would have the beginning stages inside the high schools and the completers and the CASs?
I think, can I just say one?
Please.
From my perspective of watching this, it sounds like to me that we've evolved based on what the state is asking us to do. We opened up one CAS, which was our first one.
Which isn't a CAS, it's actually part of Wando under their
Okay,
thing.
all right. So we opened the CAS building at Wando, and it sounds to me like a lot has evolved since you've done that, and you're trying to offer what the jobs that are out there, the programs for that, and you're following what the state guidelines are. And it's better for, I guess, I would think, for our students that they can have offerings in both their school and in whatever we call the CAS.
I
So-
would think it
so-
would be better if you could tell me we're gonna have the same programs in every high school, and I know for a fact you're not gonna tell us that.
But why would we be, but I don't know that we
And
do want the
that
same.
lead more
at
into ensuring equity.
Right.
you know,
And I think that this report would have been made based on the fact that we're trying to ensure equity.
So we're providing tremendously more opportunity and access for students throughout Charleston County. I can say that definitively. In fact, I have this slide up. So currently, as you can see on your bullet chart, Stahl High School does not have health science technology currently. That's 1,500 students. They don't have that program. The North Charleston Center for Advanced Study will now be able to provide those students with the opportunity if they're interested in going into the medical profession. So that's just a slice, just an example. Now, when we multiply that throughout all of Charleston County, as we look at Baptist Hill Middle High School, 5, 6, 7, that's 11 career clusters that those students will eventually be able to access as part of Baptist Hill. They have
Or
CT
the
programs,
CAS.
or the West Ashley CAS.
And I think that's where we just need a little clarity so we can understand which ones are the ors.
Yes, ma'am, and I could color code the squares in the future, maybe to indicate which
There's a lot-
career
yeah,
clusters.
Because and it's.
That would
you're-
help.
That-
Yeah,
okay.
it would,
Yes,
because you're
ma'am.
doing it,
I-
you're not changing Wando, which has more than any of the other ones, which is great, and we're all gonna get there one day with student population. And in West Ashley and downtown, you're adding something that never existed before,
Correct.
which is phenomenal. We just have a tiny piece of, you're not adding something to North Charleston, you're taking away something that was there to add something, and we've got to be able to show why this is so much better than what it was. That's what we've been having our conversation with for a couple of years. And to say there'll be some things inside Stahl and inside North Charleston, and
Yes, ma'am.
some things inside Military Magnet that kids at North Charleston can't access, we kind of just want to get
Yes,
clarity
ma'am.
on that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, and I think I understand, but we can talk, so I have complete clarification. So I can go through all the slides of St.
Reverend Collins has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm not trying to belabor the time any. You have done a good job and put a lot of work together.
Amazing.
Dr. Ambrose, so I appreciate you coming forward with this. It's a lot of information. I wish I started understanding it better before I got here. At this anyway. But so when I look at the CTE list, then I see some of the schools. I look at, I just take special note of North Charleston, Stahl, because those schools are in the area where we live. And the offerings are far less than like the West Ashley and Mount Pleasant areas for these schools. And I know the population is different, and some of the backgrounds are different. And then when I look at, so I am concerned about the equity that Ms. Coates spoke to you about. To me, that's the biggest one, because if we're spending millions of dollars to build a CAS center in North Charleston and in West Ashley, then it needs to serve the purpose. The purpose of it was simply to give equity and career opportunity to all our children. So we don't want West Ashley to have what North Charleston doesn't have, or Mount Pleasant offer, but North Charleston have, those kids can't get back and forth to those areas because the whole goal was to try to keep kids in their zone, in their districts rather, where they can have the same course offerings. I want to ask you, you can elaborate on that in just a minute, but on this page here, that you have the North Charleston Center for Advanced Studies at this one. And then for the math, I assume the math falls under the STEM, the math course, so not under the STEM then, right?
No, sir. Math is STEM, but as indicated by the State Department of Education, the STEM career cluster is the pre-engineering, the project lead the way.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Because math, we still is one of our core subjects.
Right.
Algebra, geometry, pre-calculus, calculus. That's not part of the CTE program. That's the academic program in each one of our host schools, our home schools.
Okay, so then when you mentioned a while ago, if a person wanted to go to be a math teacher, for example.
Yes.
You said they could choose math, but, so in North Charleston, where would that be offered at? Where would it fall at?
Okay, so in North Charleston High School, they offer those math courses, algebra, geometry, and the calculus courses, or those students in North Charleston could elect to go to the Center for Advanced Study.
But that's what I'm asking about, the Center for Advanced Studies.
Yes.
Where would it fall in the Center for Advanced Studies?
Oh, that would be
the
under
math?
STEM pre-engineering.
So for you, when you.
If they want to. They don't have to.
Yes, sir.
Take pre-engineering to be a math teacher. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, would it be a time where you can kind of break this sheet here down, like you did the CTE one, so we can see the exact courses that you're offering, the exact courses?
Okay, so I can,
Some of these are broad topics.
I have all of those, and they're all on those sheets. So that pre-engineering, I showed the course sequence underneath the program of studies.
Is this something that can be followed off with one-on-one, since many of us don't have the same question?
It can, I can do.
Yeah, what I'm trying to make sure is that in North Charleston and West Ashley, that we do have the math and all the major courses that everyone else has. When you look at this sheet, you see North Charleston has very little stuff, very little when you look at girls.
That's correct.
Very few dots. And we need that to be
Current.
addressed.
Reverend Collins, that's current, and that's why we're trying to add.
Right,
all
that's what
of
I'm asking him,
this.
if he can give us a
But the
list.
courses you're asking about are already in the regular school program, the school
Yeah, not the
day.
CS, though, we're talking to
Not-
CS now.
I know,
Yeah.
but
This is what we're spending millions of dollars on here.
I
It's gonna take
understand.
millions to keep it operating, so I just wanna make sure we put the money for its intended use. But you can go to the next person now.
There will be significantly more dots on that spreadsheet when those Center for Advanced Studies open up.
When it opens up.
Yes, correct.
2 years.
And in 20 months from now, the North Charleston
So,
one, and
right.
32 months for the West Ashley one.
But wouldn't the planning stages be now that we kind of start getting ready now?
We are. We have been, and we continue to do that.
Right, now I'll get back with you, maybe I'll send an email, I wanna see what more, we're offering more than what I see today.
Yes, sir.
Michael,
For me, the issue can't simply be adding more dots at each high school, right? I mean, you mentioned there are programs at, Stall has 1,500 students, but they don't have this particular program. So my thoughts are that there must be, it's almost like a tug of war, right? You want to provide access and opportunity for students who attend other schools when it comes to programming with CAS or manufacturing, IT, whatever it might be. But then those programs, my thoughts, necessarily shouldn't be generated because the business community is asking for those jobs. It's almost like it should be presented or at those facilities because the students want to participate in those kind of programs, right? And so there has to be that mirror of what the chamber thinks we need as far as providing workers who can come in day one, do well on work keys and that, and the CAS can do that in a large degree. And I agree with Cindy earlier when we mentioned, we were here before talking about it in reverse, and now it's changed the trajectory a little bit, and so it's a little, I wouldn't say confusing, but it kind of throws the dart off the board a little bit. And so I'm wondering, how do we marriage between the interests of the students, which may be completely different from the needs of the chamber and job creation, compared to how our middle school students and our elementary school students are not technically right now prepared to do these advanced work, right? And so, you you've got Boeing and Volvo, they're here, but Charleston's been predicated on tourism forever, right? So that's a $1 billion industry, but I don't see how we mirror the two. So can you help me with that? Because I don't want, I'm about to say stiff shirts, but I don't want the district to drive what programs should be at schools when the students' interests are not the same of those in this room making the decision.
So your point's exactly right. It is two different perspectives coming in to determine what courses make. And so what Mr. Gordon and his team do every year is to sit down and look at enrollment numbers and look at requests. It's a part of that individual graduation plan conference where the guidance counselor sits down, and we're constantly looking at student interest. In terms of the Lexile level, that's why it's on the chart, because we plan to backward map and look at those Lexile levels beginning in elementary and track them on through, track them in middle school, and have conversations with parents during parent-teacher conferences about this is what your child really wants to do. We want to tap into those passions and for the students to realize what it will take to accomplish their goals. So it's really two perspectives coming together. It's not just what the business and industry community or the education community wants. We're constantly talking to students about their interests. And Mr. Gordon's done a really good job with this team about building career awareness early on, starting in the elementary levels. But you're exactly right.
Thank you.
Because, one more point. I just think that when, and I know there's a lot of CTE conversations, and I think that's wonderful. I think, becoming a firefighter, they have a program where you can start at 16, and by the time you turn 18, you can be a licensed firefighter in the state of South Carolina. You have certification, you can work anywhere in the state. You talked about, medium income coming in day one. Are we also looking at a mirrored CTE program outside of what this is? For example, looking at job shadowing, looking at people who might want to go into paint and body work,
Yes.
or painting, where you might have somebody who's been in the profession for multiple years, and they would be a great shadow for students who may be interested in those types of programs. So are we also considering that as well? Because over the years, the conversation's been really CTE driven. We gotta have these programs at the school. We gotta get more bullet points at our schools, which is fine for equity and opportunity. But if the interest is there, but there's no real way for us to foster, because I don't want a kid to say, well, you know what, Mr. Gordon, I really want to be a cobbler. You know what, I want to start my own shoe repair business. Where do I go in your program? If there's not a focus for the CTE, I would hope you would say, well, you know what, we don't have a program right now, but there's a business that we're going to partner you with.
Yes, we have well over 100 business partners right now that want to work with our kids we do not necessarily have a program like that. Here's an example right here in the bottom right. These are Baptist Hill Middle High School students doing welding with Stevens Towing. We do not have a welding program in Charleston County School District. That was an opportunity where the school educators helped and built a partnership with the local business that decided to provide that mentorship, that job training, on-the-job training. Now, we don't have a welding program, so in conjunction with the welding skills, they have to take the employability skills and the academic skills at Baptist Hill High School, so then they're concurrently going forward. So that's just one example of what you're saying. We have our staff, we do every day, we're looking to develop those partnerships. And that's something that, even if it's not one of the career clusters or CTE programs, we want to continue doing activities like this.
That's good. I just think that
Absolutely.
So many of our freshman high school students are coming in below grade level when it comes to reading and Lexiles. And so when I hear about where they need to be to participate in some of these programs, I know some of our high school principals are really concerned that the students may have the interest, but because academically we're running in a large degree middle high schools, and in some cases even elementary middle high school, because our kids are so far behind, I'm hoping that this Center for Advanced Study program conversation is not isolated. It has to be triangular, where there's all elementary, middle, high schools working together, because if you're the high school principal, she's the elementary school principal, I'm the middle school principal, and we're not getting the kids ready to get to your program so they can take the Center for Advanced Studies, then we'll have some really pretty programs, some really pretty buildings, and they're gonna be relatively empty.
So, yes,
Madam
and,
Chair.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just,
Oh, okay. So, to your point, in North Charleston, in the middle schools with the Liberty Hill STEM Initiative, we're infusing STEM and Project Lead the Way Gateway to Technology to hundreds of students at Morningside Middle, North Charleston Elementary, and Stall High School. The idea is, like you were saying, is to develop our future talent pipeline for those high school CAS programs. That's something that we've been doing for in the past, but it's like full speed ahead right now. So in preparation for these facilities. I know I'm short on time, and I didn't mean to go so long. This was just the last slide. Just some 4 bullets of what we're doing in CTE in the future to support the Center for Advanced Studies. I've talked about career readiness, getting students completed and have an industry credential. We're working with with the high school secondary learning community in order to help principals and administrators and teachers get the kids ready. Career specialists are deployed throughout Charleston County School District, and they're aligned in K-12 feeder patterns. So a child and a family will have the same career specialist going from K through 12th grade, and that individual develops a relationship with those educators and those principals in those buildings. Our college and career guide, that's a new a pamphlet that provides college information and career information for students and parents. And then microburst employability soft skills training. That's an employability program that we're initiating in Charleston County School District this year and next year as well. That works on the interpersonal skills, communication skills, teamwork, conflict resolution, dependency, all those being dependable, all of those skills that employers want, those soft skills. I've even had HR executives say, Mr. Gordon, we will teach them how to swing a hammer, you teach them how to show up to work on time and pass a drug test. And they'll tell you that. So,
Rich, thank you, and he gave us all of his information if you want to contact him on more of your
Thank you.
questions, because I think we have a lot more.
yeah.
Thanks, Rich.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll be followed by.
Thank you for all your
And
work.
again, it can't be said enough, this is the most amazing document I think we've ever seen.
Thank you.
That will change the lives of children more than anything I've seen in 8 years.
I think this is going to change lives. It's going to transform communities and maybe change some family trees. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, ensuring equity in instructional programming K-12.
I'm going to ask the level leaders to come up, elementary, middle, and high, and I'm also going to ask Ms. Roberts to come forward. This was a team effort.
Okay.
And Ms. Jeffrey, would it be okay if we go all the way through the presentation and then take questions?
Yes.
We tried.
No,
Okay, but I got the gavel.
Priscilla, we do our best.
I never had this before, you know. Try me.
She's scared.
What are you pointing?
Who gave me this? Who gave me this? I'm not giving it back.
That's it, right? So great day, everyone. Today we're going to speak to you all about middle school program more specifically, but Michelle and Sharon are working on this for the high school levels. So what we did was we assembled a team to look at middle school programming. We looked at our core classes. We also looked at our comprehensive classes, which are electives, and we focused more on the comprehensive classes because when we looked at our comprehensive classes, we realized that was we had a gap. That was the biggest area of opportunity when we looked at equity and access across our middle schools. So when we talk about access and equity, in our district, we've always had a focal point on, access and equity for our scholars.
Do we have this?
It's within this
Right
same
here,
package.
it's in the middle of the
Want to make
package.
sure,
It's
because
the one that was handed out.
just make
right?
sure that
Keep
everybody.
going in there, it's right there. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. Yep.
We got it.
So we've always had a focal point on access and equity in our district. And if you look at, grade configurations across the district, elementary, middle, and high, this has presented itself as a huge area of opportunity for our middle schools for lots of different reasons. But we identified two major reasons as to why this is an area of opportunity for our middle schools. The first, lack of standardization. We have lots of middle schools in our district. We have middle schools that are different sizes, that have different programs, different themes, and this lends itself to a bit of a barrier when we look at access and equity as far as comprehensive classes are concerned at the middle school level. And the second thing, which you all are pretty aware of, are budget constraints. So these are the two areas we identified when we started looking at our comprehensive classes across middle schools and how we can ensure access and equity in that area. So here we have two schoolhouses, old schoolhouses, and when we looked at optimal, what we call optimal comprehensive courses at the middle school level, we looked at different organizations that support middle schools that actually make recommendations, nationally recognized organizations make recommendations for middle schools, and that's AMLE, the Association for Middle Level Education, and also Schools to Watch. We also looked at some different districts across the nation when we came up with this. So first what we did is once we came up with what we considered to be optimal courses that need to be offered at the middle school level, we looked at what we currently have as far as those offerings are concerned in every single middle school. So in other words, how many of these courses do we have in every single one of our middle schools? And so we're going to start with those. So we identified that we do have physical education in all of our middle schools. We have performing arts in all of our middle schools. We have visual arts in all of our middle schools. And I want to explain to you, performing arts would be like your band, your steel drums, your dance, your drama, and your visual arts are like your arts programs. So when we looked at optimal, what we would be recommending, we looked at visual and performing arts, 2 teachers to cover both those areas. Physical education, 2, and let me go back, take a step back. If you look up at the top of that actual house, you'll see 600 scholars. So this is what we would recommend for 600 scholars in a middle school. So it wouldn't be less than 600 scholars, okay? I see a look on your face, Mr. Miller, but we'll get to that in a second.
I'm assuming this is on top of like math and science.
Yes.
But we don't have those in all of our middle schools the same, do we?
When you say the same,
So Algebra 1 in every middle school, the same number of math options in every middle school. Are our middle schools in our core courses equitable?
you're absolutely correct. That's another piece of
It's
this.
not going to be discussed today.
We're not going to focus on that today, but we have a more in-depth, we have a more in-depth document that we're working on. The biggest piece that we wanted to do now is just speak to the fact that we know we don't have access and equity and let you all know this is the work we're doing and make it apparent to you all where we're headed as far as that's concerned. But you're absolutely correct. We do not have the same offerings. But I think the biggest thing that you'll realize after we get a little more in-depth in the presentation, which is short, is that there are a lot of different things that come into play when we're looking at those offerings at all of our middle schools. Okay?
Thank you.
So Health 2, also CTE 3, and World Language 1. So in looking at these optimal comprehensive courses for a school of 600 scholars, we first of all chose things that we knew were required by the State Department. Number 2, we looked at the fact that, Rich just gave you all a huge presentation on CTE, and Mr. Miller pointed on the fact that a lot of our middle schoolers are coming to high school not prepared, so we knew we needed to step it up in that area as well. And also, there's a lot of research that shows that, the visual and performing arts do, enhance academic achievement. So we looked at those things, like I said, looking at AMLE, looking at Schools to Watch, and looking at other districts across the nation to kind of come up with what we would consider optimal comprehensive courses in our middle schools. This next chart kind of outlines where we are as far as our middle schools are concerned and how many scholars we have in our middle schools. So when you look at that table, I want to point out more specifically, I know a lot of you are aware of this, that when we looked at the 10 courses that we would consider optimal in a school of 600, these schools that are identified have at least 5 of those courses, so we consider them to be kind of like on the right track, but they still need more. And when you look at our larger schools, like your Lang and your Carrios, and Northwoods is a larger middle school as well, even though they may have 5 or more, they don't have enough to support the amount of scholars they have in their building. So that's why we know we have some work to do in this area. And just want to point out that we didn't really give SOA a color, but we all know that SOA probably is an outlier in this study because they are a school of the arts, when you look at your comprehensive courses. All right, the next chart, we have our student enrollment, and we have the number of teachers. And I do want to point out on this slide, we figured we'd do a little give and take. We know this is a lot to take on, so we started thinking about what could we do to kind of absorb some of the finances surrounding this. So we currently have, allocations that will be 23 to 1, 23, 22, and 21.5. So we said we'd take it up to 25.1 to kind of balance. We know it's not a lot. The fact that we're going to be, possibly asking for some more comprehensive classes in our middle schools. So you can see we have student enrollment, and we have what that will look like in the future. But the average cost we have is actually for this current year, $18.19. And we are actually delving into some work with Jeff team and Don's team to look at what that would actually be, the cost would be if we were to do the optimal, so we can kind of give you some different options surrounding that.
And optimal would be up to 25.1.
Based on 600.
600.
Yep, for the 10 comprehensive courses, yes.
The question becomes, what if it's not optimal numbers? I'll get to that later.
Well, so our next steps are, we presented this information to you, Mr. Miller, and we presented our research and our recommendations, and now we would ask that, you know, whatever question you have or whatever direction you would like to give us in what, if we wanted to accomplish this, what would you want from us to make this happen for our middle schools? Because the one thing that I like to use as an example, and we could talk about all the things that aren't equitable because we know we have an issue with that in our district, but I think about band just sticks out in my head, you know, because I know that for a fact we don't have band in every single one of our middle schools. But, you know, our high schools do have band, so in order for a band scholar to be really proficient, you know, once they get into 12th grade and possibly want to look at scholarships or look at being in the band in the Navy or the Army, it would behoove them to have taken some band classes at the middle school level. So when we don't have that, it just raises, you know, my attention to this subject matter. So we would ask that, you know, that this is considered and that we do look at access and equity for our scholars, not just in middle school, but elementary and high as well. And I know they may have a few things they want to say.
Yeah, I do. What we've tried to do is to sit down and look at best practices at elementary, middle, and high, look across the country. Dr. Williams referenced that. But we wanted to look at what is an ideal elementary program. What do we believe in Charleston that the elementary program should look like? What do we believe for high school? What do we believe for middle school? So we have more information we'll be bringing to you after the holidays where we've actually defined those core classes. We've taken a look to see what's offered where, and they are writing this up in a really great document that's called a program of studies that we can put out for elementary, for the middle, and for the high school levels. And I'm going to ask the level leaders to add anything they want to add about the work they've done, and Ms. Roberts, if there's anything you want to add.
Regarding
Well, well, I'll go ahead and add to what Cindy just said, is that this document is huge, and we knew that it would be a lot to present, but we've gotten even deep as to looking at the building and what a building should entail. Like, for instance, we started looking at our middle schools, for instance, and we started thinking about the fact that I truly believe collaboration is the way that people learn best. I mean, we could sit down and we could receive information, but when you learn from other people that are doing the same thing that you're doing, it's just a lot more powerful. So we spoke about the fact that we really don't have an area in schools where teachers on a team, for instance, in middle school could actually sit and collaborate. So we're looking deep, discuss data. We're looking deep into this process, outlining things like that in the building as well. So
You look at scheduling too, didn't
Yep,
you?
we look at
Scheduling is key.
Okay. Ms. Randall and Ms. Simmons, anything you want to add about the work you've done?
Obviously, when you're talking about high school, you're talking about comprehensive core classes. So trying to lay out all the possible choices for core classes to ensure kids access the pathways that Rich was talking about a minute ago. In high schools, you have to consider the fine arts, the PE, the military aspect of it, the CTE, dual credit, AP courses, all that is considered and going to be part of this document for high school.
And I'll just offer that for the elementary, it is rather standard in terms of what we can offer in an elementary program. What were outliers for us as we started to dig into it were three particular areas. That would be elementary physical education. The state of South Carolina designates that a full-time PE teacher should be offered at $500. Right now, our district offers that at $600. So that's an area we want to shore up. And then foreign languages, only 9 out of the 48 elementary programs offer an opportunity for foreign languages. And then along the lines of that CTE aspiration would be a full-time computer science teacher. So right now the district issues a 0.5 allocation for elementary school. So those three big areas, physical education, foreign languages, and computer science would be the three areas at the elementary level that we want to pay attention to and see if we can look at ensuring that access and opportunities are across the board provided for boys and girls.
And Ms. Roberts was our fact checker. She checked the defined program for the state of South Carolina and made sure that we were in alignment. So, and we have some other team members out in the audience, Jennifer Coker, the special education office, Rich Gordon, of course, Jeff's team, Don's team. We constantly came together and tried to look at what the state of South Carolina required, what were our aspirations for Charleston, what's happening on that national landscape, and how could we weave that all together into a program of studies for each level.
Can I ask?
I think Ms. Green first. It don't matter.
Can I
Go
just
ahead.
ask one question, then I'll go? And I've been pushing for a comprehensive health curriculum. Is that part of PE?
Often, that comprehensive health program is woven into your PE classes, or it's taught through an advisor advisee or through an online blended learning. We are looking at that, and that was a big topic of conversation as we sat down to do
We
this
really
work.
need more of that. Okay, thank you.
And the state prescribes that every single middle school every year should, be exposed to the health curriculum. So that makes it a bit of a challenge in middle schools to make that happen.
But yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Green.
Can you tell me, by the way, I commend you, this is very exciting to know that we have this going on in our county. But can you tell me where we are, and I think somebody brought this up, with just our fundamental and core courses as it pertains to all of this?
Well, we can say that every middle school definitely has your standard science, your standard ELA, your standard math, and your standard social studies classes. They do. Where we see the equity issues are, and this is part of why we need to have this system in place, is when we look at the amount of high school credit courses that certain high schools are offering middle schools are offering versus other middle schools. So that's the type of work we're looking at, and we're really close to a formula to, I don't like to use this term, but to kind of guide schools into these are the high school credit courses we're going to offer. We're going to offer them at this level, because the issue that we're having is that when a kid transfers from one school to the next, and they're in, let's say, a geometry class at middle school, then that's not an option at some middle schools. So we know that we have to look at that as well, and so we're currently doing that work as well. And so we could definitely have that for you all.
And so, time-wise, what's the rollout schedule? I mean, I assume you are not going to be able to do all of this at one time.
No.
So what is the sequence, like what comes first, and what's the sequence of what the rollout?
We do have a draft rollout plan. It wasn't quite finalized to bring today, but we plan to bring it to you after the holidays. We built a 3-year roadmap for rollout. And we know that we've got to offer a lot of training. We need more teachers indoors to teach honors level courses. We know that's going to require some funding to make the professional development, the coursework you have to have that added on your license as an endorsement. We looked at really where we want to be in 3 years and then backward map that in terms of what we got to do for the next 3 years. So we'll have that for you after the holidays. We just had it wasn't quite ready today.
So peek preview in terms of what's going to be first. Or you can't tell us yet.
Well, first we know we've got to equalize the offerings, because we don't have consistency in offerings across the district. So that's the first thing we have to look at. What's being offered for an honors level course? What's not? Where's Algebra 1 and honors? Where is it not? We know the training, that's big. That'll be one of the first things we have to roll out. We'll have to make sure that teachers have the correct endorsements on their teaching certificates. So that'll be some of the first things we roll out, and then each year we've got a little more to add to it. Did I leave anything out, Dr. Williams?
I think the chart that we'll show you will better explain that, where it shows comprehensive and core classes for middle schools. And year one, what we're trying to do year two. And I want to make sure I point out that year 3 is not just year 3 we want to be done. It's year 3 and beyond, because we know this is going to take some time.
Mr. Hollingshed?
Thank you again for what you presented. Going back into the middle school, especially in North Charleston, just to give you an example, in West Ashley, I can see now where the high school band director and principal are trying to coordinate as middle schools to be able to be that feeder system or create that art program that Ms. Priscilla Jeffries talked about a while back, that moves children into the high school, and I guess go kind of backwards in time to when Mr. Shealy had a nice program. But going into North Charleston, we need to find a way that, when you talk about STEM and math and science and reading, but also STEM and the children, sparking their interest, being able to take their mind off of things in the community or at home, that band program, that art class, may relieve that child some. We need to find a way to coordinate our middle school efforts in those programs that be able to reflect in North Charleston High or at Stall. At one time, for example, I saw, before I even got on the board, folks were excited. Stall had a band program, and it was growing. Then all of a sudden, it just kind of stopped because the feeder system wasn't able to keep it going. In North Charleston High, they had a pretty good band director, and he left and I think went to Goose Creek, which kind of made it go backwards again. So we got to find a way to be able to keep it going. I think when you were at Morningside, you started a drum corps program. I think that kind of went by the wayside too, but it kind of intrigued and got the children motivated to kind of look forward to high school and what they want to grow in. That, for us, it may not seem to be that much, but for that child, it means a lot for that child to be able to say, well, I'm able to go to the high school, get into a program, and eventually maybe move on to college or somewhere else. Mr. McLeod has done it, I think, for over 30 or 40 years. He has taken children that have not had any band skills whatsoever and worked double overtime to train to be where he was at for the period of time. So I really want to see what we can do in North Charleston to not only just fund those programs, to find a way to give those children the opportunity to practice when they're not in school. Because again, in Mount Pleasant, again, you can't knock from where they're at. The parents give the kids band training, outside of the band program. That's why they have an award-winning band. We got to kind of mimic some of that within our district, just to kind of benefits those children.
Thank you. Eric, Reverend Mack, did you have any?
Thank you for this work that you have done, and of course the roadmap that you have begun to lay out ahead of us. I guess the million-dollar question for me is, the optimal that you presented was based upon a 600 student population in the middle school. So we have, or more. But we do not have 600 scholars in some of our middle school, and we talk about equity moving forward. I guess the important question is, in this roadmap, how are we going to ensure that we are reaching all scholars if we do not have all of our middle schools at 600-plus population?
Unless y'all plan on closing emerging schools.
Did not say that. I ask. No, don't add to my question. I only asked.
Don't talk to them.
He's asking for an answer.
We're not going to do that.
So let me be
We're gonna
clear.
have to do it at some point. We might as well start having
Hang on. Ho.
Bill is trying to do.
Let him
So,
answer the
hang on a
question
second.
as the school
Let's not
stands.
redefine my question or rearrange my question in any manner which I just presented. So just the question that I ask is what I'm referencing to.
Well, I'll start and I'll let Ms. Ambrose or Cindy finish. So the 600 was put in place because, number one, we were thinking about future. And we may change that number based on feedback we get from you, feedback we encounter as we continue with this process. But that was thinking about in the future as we build our middle schools, what sizes should we build our middle schools so that we can ensure that we have those comprehensive courses and those core courses that all middle schoolers should have, because we know that becomes extremely difficult the smaller the school is. And number two, we've had conversations about what would we do for some of our schools, and there were a lot of innovative ideas because I presented this to our parent cabinet, we presented it to our teacher cabinet, and also our principal cabinet. So we've gotten some input, and this was just about a week and a half ago, from those groups that are kind of helping guide that work as to what do we do right now for some of our schools that we know will fall into that category. So do we have an exact answer? We do not, but we are looking at it with some of those work groups to try to develop a plan for some of our schools that we know aren't at those numbers.
And some of those really small schools wouldn't have the student population for you to have all those offerings anyway, so.
But-
Right.
But we're talking about equity.
We
So-
are talking about equity, but if you've only got 60 kids, they don't have enough time in the day to go to all those electives. So when you have 600 kids, usually 200 of those students are in electives at one time. So you've got to have places for those 200 students to go. But if you've got 60 kids, you don't need as many spaces. So typically in schools with smaller numbers, you're not going to have all that offering.
That goes back to when y'all looked at the
What we
buildings.
tried to do was to put together a prototype for when we do build schools, what do we believe that program should look like, so that students have options about whether they want to go to band or chorus, or, they want to take 2 CTE classes, or what their interests are. So that's what we were trying to do.
So I don't want to beat a dead horse. So this roadmap then was built on the premise of school populations of 600 students or more. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay,
Well,
so, hang on. Having said that, then they must be another or an adjacent roadmap of some sort parallel to the existing roadmap of 600-plus students, because currently we do not have those in all of our middle schools. So the question is how, well, I guess not a question, but a suggestion as in this roadmap that we begin to, because we're talking about equity from the State House down to the district level. And how do we make sure that, because as time go on, and this is a 3-year roadmap, we have to make sure that we are not leaving any child behind as we begin to move forward, but making sure that we provide equity across the board. So how do we do that in this roadmap of schools that do not have 600 student population, even if they have 50? Let's use that number. Then we have to find an aggressive way to make sure that because of those same 50, that they are getting, until we're able to do what we need to do, getting that same opportunity, those with 600-plus population. Now, how do you do that? I don't know. But my question is, if you come up with a way of making sure that no child, even the 50, is left out of the equation, what does that dollar amount look like? What I'm saying is that we're going to have to be very aggressive in the roadmap. Okay, either you're going to drive a Yugo or you're going to drive a Lexus. You pick the choice. But the choice is you're going to need to get there without leaving anybody behind. And if it means that we have to tie dollars to it, then we have to do that, because the 50 is just important as the 600. And I know you agree with me, but I'm just making that statement. How do we tie the same equity there?
And typically what I've seen is these kinds of dialogue, this ongoing dialogue about where the system, with the leadership of the board, wants to go. Like what is doable. So we saw this as the first pass at a conversation, and we know there have to be repeated conversations.
So let me say this. Then let me be aggressive to say that I support the 50 over here, the 600 over here, having that equal opportunity and getting those resources that's needed to move forward. So whatever that looks like for me, and I'm just one, then we tied a dollar to it, because it's important, if we're going to move this forward, that we make sure that we capture everyone on this train.
And I think historically Charleston has tried to equalize that. I think it maybe not to the extent of where we sat down and mapped everything and looked at it in that way, but I have heard dialogue around the board table about wanting to make sure you serve the 50.
Yeah.
And I think equally important with electives, when students are in electives, your core teachers then have planning time, which I imagine in a school with 50 is really difficult because there's no place for the kids to go. So that's
Right.
equally as important as having those specials, is that teachers get to work together, especially at the middle school level.
Ms. Priscilla, may I ask a question?
Yes, you're after.
No.
Oh, he wants to do that.
So first off, just a small correction, so I think we need to be very clear about what's being talked about on the table today. This is not just one half of what you said. You said this is a scenario planning for what would look like for a school that's 600 or larger. It's actually, if you look at this piece of paper, it's a scenario planning for what a school that would have a population of 600 and larger, and we're willing to increase the class sizes to 25 to 1. You can't have 600 and continue to do the 21.5 class size that we approved in last year's budget. So that's a conversation that could be painful. You could agree with it, you could disagree with it, but I don't want us to walk out of this room thinking that we're talking about what a scenario planning looks like for schools of 600 or more. That's not what we're walking out of this room looking like. We're also saying there's another factor of increasing class sizes.
But that's not what I said.
Okay.
But that's fine.
So,
We just use that 25. We just use that 25 because
That was- and that's
because we
my
know some
question.
classes are going to be smaller, some are going to be larger.
well, that's my question. The work that you described to Joyce is exciting. What is a building supposed to look like? What are the courses we want to put in there? What should every single middle school have? And then work backwards to what is feasible and equitable so that everyone can get it. That's work I'm looking forward to seeing. What message do you want us to take away from today? Because the only sheet we have is the enrollment, the student-to-teacher ratio, and some dollar figures. So what is the message you want us to take away today? After Christmas, we're getting to talk about the other stuff.
So what we want you to take away today is we think it's important for Charleston to define what your educational philosophy is for elementary schools, for
In
middle
terms of
schools,
what?
for high schools, in terms of a robust program offering. What do we believe in terms of scheduling, staffing, and course offerings? When we go to build new schools, what do we want to include?
And you're not asking us to think of that today. You're going to
We're
bring
gonna-
us
we're
something.
gonna
So what are
bring
you
you
asking
back
us
some
today
of-
to take away? Because at some point, we're going to remember this presentation. It was important enough for y'all to come give us these three
Right.
slides.
We want you to take away so that you know we're doing this work. We're going to be coming back to the table with additional information. We're going to be talking about core, talking about comprehensive. We're going to lay all that out. We're going to show you the courses. Today was our first pass, and we'll be coming back with more information.
Does this involve having to increase class sizes next year in the middle schools? This will
No,
still be around
no.
the 22, because right now you have your,
We just use 25 as a
Okay.
ballpark figure
Okay.
because we know some classes will have a little more than that, but many classes will be smaller than that.
okay, because I was just looking at the budget from last year, and that's much smaller than this number, and I just
We
didn't
were
know
just
where
trying
we're
to
coming.
scope it out.
Okay.
Kate, did you have a question?
So what would happen if it were 22 to 1? What would the cost per student be?
We could do the math for you, but of course, it's going to increase the cost just a bit. And the other thing is, it depends on how you staff those middle schools, whether or not those special areas, the electives, the comprehensive courses, whether that's on top. I've seen districts staff it all with one ratio of like, I've not seen 25 for middle school, but I've seen like 22, 23. And then I've seen some school districts that they staff the core, and then they layer on top what the programs are going to be. And then I've seen other school districts that get that ratio down, and they put all their teachers in there.
I think this is going to be exciting stuff. Thank y'all.
Is there anything in some of these recommendations that you're making, I know that you're going to continue to make, that we should be lobbying the state for? Like, for example, I've always thought it bizarre that in elementary school that the state doesn't say you need a full-time computer teacher. And so, so not that you can answer that right now, but it seems like from what the coverage in the paper has been, that members of the, our delegation and the legislature as a whole are looking to, improve education funding. So if there's something in particular that you think, gosh, the state should have always funded this, I think that'd be helpful to share as you're making these recommendations. That doesn't have to be today.
Okay.
One.
You want to say what?
Reverend
I was
Collins.
gonna say health teachers.
Health teachers.
I mean, it's, and I know some people don't understand it, but let me try to break it down to you really quick. If I have a school of 700 scholars, and I have 2 PE health teachers, and every single scholar in that building has to be exposed to the full health curriculum every year, how do you make that happen?
Yeah.
It's a requirement from the state, and we don't get any support to make that happen. And there's also not a lot of flexibility in how you can offer that help to our scholars. So that's when your hands become tied, and then we're constantly consistently out of compliance because they're almost asking us to do the impossible. We don't have any flexibility in how we can offer the curriculum, and then also we don't have enough staff to actually ensure that all of these scholars are exposed to that health issue.
And your lack of staff is because they don't fund a specific position for those teachers. They just throw that into the GOF and tell you to use it as part of your FTEs.
And we are looking at ways that a lot of school districts are doing blended courses for health. So it's a blend of face-to-face and some of it online. So we are looking, Ms. Roberts and others are working inside Learning Services to figure out what are some, like 3 scenario options for school districts for schools to offer the help.
And elementary as well.
Right.
Just as a point of order, may I ask a question? Based on our committee policy, we've got 10 minutes for discussion, and we're just an hour and a half into the second.
So
Second
again,
item.
can I ask that board members contact any of these people with further questions, unless you have a burning question? I think you have a burning question.
I do,
Mr.
I
Miller,
do.
this is last meeting, so I think we have to answer.
Yes, we do.
But I do think that if we say this is what we're supposed to be talking about, that this is the most important thing the
Yeah.
board should be doing, that conflicts with saying you've got 10 minutes to talk about something that
Okay.
is literally the beginning of a
Yeah.
3-year transformation of how we staff schools.
Maybe it deserves a workshop then, because there's a lot more that needs, I mean,
I agree.
yeah,
I
like
just
this
wanted
is
to
sort
say-
of tease it up.
I just want to say quickly, I think equality, equity, and/or versus student enrollment, we're never going to win. Right? I mean, unless the school board, unless the 9 of us, the 8 of y'all after the day, will be courageous enough to say, the state says this, we want to offer equity and opportunity to every student, the 50 that Eric was talking about, then the 9 of us can do that. Just because the state says that we don't have to, doesn't mean that we can't.
Well, we have to
right?
pay for it.
I don't
And I
disagree
don't
with
think
that.
we have
And
any more flexibility
But,
in our
but I'm not, I think we do. I think the question then becomes, is our current choice options helping them deliver to us equity and opportunity for every student across the district? Because if that is not, then we need to revamp everything that we're doing and saying, well, if the goal is to provide equity and opportunity for every scholar across the district, regardless of student enrollment in a school, then that's the charge, and that's where the courage comes in at in making those decisions. I don't even think they're tough decisions. I think Eric said it right. The 50 are just as important as the 600. And the 50 shouldn't be left out because, well, they don't have enough students at their school, so we can't offer what a school of 600 could offer. Well, no. If our goal is to provide equity and opportunity for every student, then that's exactly what we do. Now, I don't disagree that it may take a little willpower to make that happen, but then if that's the case, then don't put this in the worksheet, right? I mean, if it's not about this, and then take this one out, and then have something else in its place. But don't say we want access and opportunity, and then on the next page, say we got the 600 students we're dealing with. No, don't do that. I mean, if the conversation's about equity and opportunity, then let it be about that. And then what you bring to us drives that. Because we're gonna make decisions based on the information you provide us. And if we're gonna be handcuffed by student enrollment, and in some areas of the county, middle schools will never get the 600. Never. That's not their fault. It's just where they are in the district, there's not enough students to create that environment. That does not mean they don't deserve arts and visual arts and band and math, so.
Thank you. Reverend Collins.
Yes, I'll be short. I remember when,
Please.
but I remember when Mr. Miller and I used to operate SEC some years before you guys, a lot of you got here. Some of the topics, Brother Garrett, with 3 hours alone with that one topic. But when we got through, it was well vetted and it worked. It was the most important topic of the day, what we do in the classroom. So we can't just fly through the academic pieces. We got to go
It
through.
also requires us to show up prepared, having gone through these, being given these on time, going through them ahead of time, so that we get here, we're ready to ask questions, or we take our time, like I do before I show up, and give them a phone call to say, what, I don't understand this, let me know help me understand this better.
Well, I don't think you can get the presentation ahead of the time until they present it. When they bring it, we get
right,
it's
guys,
live, we get to ask questions.
Let's
and-
not argue about
and
this at
see,
this point. If you have a
We're not arguing, we're
question,
good. We're good, we're not arguing. We just bring out how important it is.
it is.
My point I'm want to get at is that, and for example, in North Charleston and downtown and West Ashley, some of the school populations have very little diversity. I mean, almost minute. What are we doing about involving the community in the curriculum, in our course offerings? Are we getting any feedback from parents? And not only the parents, but the parent that lives next door, whose child attend a private school, or the child goes somewhere else, or maybe being homeschooled because they don't want what we're offering in our schools. But we can have the most robust program on paper. It looks so good and so well, but I'll give you some example of what I'm speaking about. When we started doing a little more of Montessori, I saw people came back to public school that not once would stick foot in the door of traditional public school. But when the Montessori came out and they had young children, they were attracted and they came out then. They didn't care about the color of the kids that were there, the background, population. Because it was Montessori, it didn't matter anymore because they were getting what they wanted. So what if we approach the elementary school and the middle school the same way, that we have something so attractive to offer to the parents and to the community that they no longer care about who's in the school sitting next to their child, but they all can come. I read some studies, and the studies show that schools that have diverse populations, those schools perform better academically. The schools that have single populations, racial population, they don't do as good. They're more one-sided. But the more diverse schools produce the best results. So what can we do then to make elementary and middle school much more diverse, and when parents want to come out, want to be involved, want to take part in the school, want to feel like it's their school? If we can do for Montessori, can we do for other programs in our district?
Point noted, and that might be a great segue to the next agenda item.
Thank you.
That's a
Thank you, Reverend
That's a good way to close my
River.
sermon out. That's a good way to close out my sermon.
Okay, so that would be magnet choice options.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your work.
What's that? Can I use the badge? Use the bathroom. You like that, sir? Thank you. Need some tape for you with the bag. Some duct tape.
Exactly right, Sandy, that, I think you guys teed this up very well for the next presentation, which is magnet school choice recommendations. And that's this slide, magnet school choice recommendations. I was asked to look at bringing together some diverse groups of folks to talk about mainly what we've been talking about, what you guys have been talking about for a few minutes, which is equity and access. And if you remember the Clemson study, number 3 actually said, reform the system to ensure access to quality schools. And that was really the charge. So the process was that as an extension of the recommendations in the Clemson University Inequity and Inclusion Report, stakeholder groups were formed to provide suggestions and some potential recommendations to bring to you all for your consideration. There were 3 meetings held with interested principals. Everyone was invited. Certain principals were asked to come. We held them at different times of the day. We had them interact with the Clemson University Equity and Inclusion Report, especially number 3. And we held 5 meetings with various parent groups, parent cabinet, evening, afternoon meetings with a variety of parent groups from all across the district. So in total, there were 8 meetings held. And here are the recommendations. These are the recommendations being brought to you for your consideration. I think overwhelmingly, the groups said, we were talking about choice schools and magnet schools. Overwhelmingly, no matter where they came from in the district, parents and even principals said, we just want all of our schools to be great schools. We want every single school that we have to be a choice that anyone would want to send anyone, and any child to.
And that would help with Reverend Collins, what Reverend Collins just said.
It was, and I'm sorry he's not here to hear it, but,
Me too.
but that's exactly what was overwhelmingly. And we took copious notes. We had chart tablets. I still have all the chart tablets. I've put them all in Google Docs. I have everybody's comments. And this is kind of culled down to 10 recommendations for your consideration. And the first one is to look at the magnet schools that have entrance criteria. There were folks that talked about whether or not that entrance criteria needed to be looked at, changed, or adjusted. And the 2 bullet points underneath was a suggestion to use outside adjudicators, including teachers from other schools, to avoid the appearance of bias. And the second bullet point is to ensure the entrance qualifications, expectations, and rubrics used are fully and completely communicated to all parents and teachers, and I would even add students, so that they would know what the expectation is. The second recommendation is to examine all of the partial magnet schools that are in existence in the district and consider eliminating those programs that have low enrollment and/or no enrollment applications. If there hasn't been an interest to enroll there, is there a need to keep that? The committee, the groups of folks had to look at that. Overwhelmingly, folks wanted to add a paper option to the online application process, to the choice magnet process, and to continue to provide assistance to parents. They just said if it was a barrier for even one family, they wanted an option for paper option. Number 4, you know that we have a choice fair where the magnet and choice schools go and highlight their schools. There was a suggestion, say, to open that up so that all schools that wish to participate, as parents go to that magnet thing, they start to think, well, this is all the choices that I have, and they may not see the neighborhood schools in that group of choice. So we probably need to, we'd like for you to consider to expand the choice fair to include all schools. And then we said that wish to participate, but I would think everybody probably would want to. Number 5 just talks exactly about what the level leaders and Dr. Williams was talking about, is to develop standard courses to be offered at all middle school. There was great discussion in our parent groups about parents that start to look for something in their local school, that if something in their local school is not being offered, such as a performing arts program or a foreign language or an algebra, they start to look at where can I get that? And can I get that at a choice school? Can I get that at a magnet school? And that's what drives them. If we had a standard courses to be offered at all middle schools, I think perhaps the feeling from the group was that they would not look for that. So that was a recommendation. Number 6 goes back to we just want all of our schools to be strong, rigorous schools. And so a suggestion was to strengthen the core curriculum at every school and budget for additional support to help prepare students from high poverty backgrounds for magnet choice auditions if they so choose at schools that require them. There was a real thought that we may not be providing access and equity to all students if they don't have someone or a group of someones to help them prepare to audition or to meet the requirements for some of our magnet programs. 7 was another highly discussed option, and folks just thought this would be very easy to solve. I'm not so sure, but for schools that have entrance criteria and a long waiting list of qualified applicants, they said, consider opening and expanding to a second campus. If we have X number of folks on a waiting list, why do we make them, and they're eligible students, but we're limited by space, consider expanding to a second campus to create more opportunities. Number 8, this suggestion was to review practices at all magnet schools and make changes as warranted to practices such as, but not limited to, class size, continuation requirements, re-auditioning rules, those kinds of things, to make sure that we're providing access and equity to all students. There was you all know that there was a 1998 Harvard study, and in that study, I think it's on page 25 of that study, there's a whole section on their recommendations about magnet schools in Charleston County. That's Dr. Willie out of Harvard's group. And there was a quote in there that they said for Charleston, should magnet schools that require a standardized test as part of the admissions process should use a minimum acceptance score of not greater than the 65th percentile. They maintained in that report that using that as your cutoff would not at all detract from the quality of the program. So that's just something for your consideration. And then number 10 is, of course, to hold for consideration during budget deliberations, but there was talk about to examine the magnet choice transportation to ensure that all eligible students receive transportation to programs as needed. And so those are the 10 recommendations coming out of a group of parents and principals.
I think they're great, so I move to approve the listed recommendations.
Second.
Second.
Can I ask a
Yeah,
question?
now we go.
Yes.
Okay. This, I don't think it's gonna, impact the recommendations, but I would like to know if there's any, are you working with the group that we heard from earlier today as far as the Clemson study is concerned? We had a presentation earlier, and is there any effort to combine what you're doing so we can get it,
You're talking about the
comprehensive?
the Rios group? Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, Don Kennedy and I should have said this, that I was not doing this totally by myself, but Mr. Kennedy asked that I share, and part of the presentation that I made to all of 8 groups was the presentation about the Rios group, and to talk about how we got to where we are, as kind of to set the stage for discussion about magnet choice options. So yes, and also Doris Twiggs, who's a retired CCSD educator, principal, and central office staff, also was assisted in the program. So yes, I think we are, and I'm definitely, Don and I have talked about this quite a bit. I sent, talk about, so I do think that there's a place to, it all sort of dovetails together.
Yeah, it would just seem to me that if we could get information collectively, knowing that you guys have been working together and it not coming to us piecemeal, one group making this presentation, another group making this presentation, and maybe we aren't there yet. I mean, it's all good information, and I'm certainly not trying to.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah, but it would be good if we could get that information together. At least for me, it would be.
So, as Ms. Nichols indicated, there's collaboration between what work that was done, that was presented, and the Rios Share Future work. The Share Future Rios work is more long-term, and so we won't be presenting the outcomes until the end of January. Some of the decisions that need to be made here tonight impact the school for next year, and so we have to have a notification to parents of what the process will be for fiscal year, school year 1920.
So Joyce, just to help, I think, based on what you guys have said, is that all the presentations we've gotten today related to SEC are all going back to these goals that we've set based on the Clemson Advanced Ed and Strategic Plan, and then Rios, although is more long-term, but all of you all are communicating on those.
That's correct.
That was not clear, and
Yeah.
that's what I was trying to make sure. Thank you.
So in our documents, can we reference, because this work that's moving forward, a lot of it is inclusive of the Clemson Diversity Study and the Advanced Ed Study, so piece are pulled from those two components moving forward. So I guess as this work moves forward, in reference to what Joyce just said, can we just reference that this ties back into either the Clemson Ed Diversity Study or the Advanced Ed piece as we move forward? That way it helps us to understand that, we're not getting piecemeal information, but all of these are triangly working together as a whole.
Something
Right.
that we used on each piece, so we all
Right.
know that, it's all connected.
Yep.
with-
Yeah.
so-
Is that okay? Yeah.
May I ask a question? Does this incorporate any of the work Eric did with his magnet ad hoc committee magnet suggestions? Because what I don't see in here is lining them up or correlating them or reducing the discombobulation of various magnets that don't match the areas they live in. We have a science middle school magnet in a community that doesn't have a science elementary school, and a science elementary school where we don't have a science middle. It's clearly not, magnets clearly not for the magnet purpose as much as it is not to go to the schools in the neighborhood. So I don't see anything that talks about lining these up and reducing them or coordinating the work the board did over the last 3 years.
Right, that did not really come up in the group parent and groups that we talked with. What did come up with was, I'm looking at going to X school, and it's not because my child loves fill in the blank, art, dancing, science, whatever. I'm going there because my neighborhood school doesn't have something. So it's it's almost more that if we shored up the middle school offerings and strengthened the curriculum so that their neighborhood schools had those things that they wanted and needed, that perhaps the need for looking elsewhere would be reduced. And then number two gets at it a little bit to examine the partial magnet schools and consider eliminating programs that have low enrollment and.
Well, and that was my second question. Why are we examining them? Why aren't we making a decision about them?
Well,
I mean, we're getting ready to go into the season for the 19 school year. Are you telling us there's going to be absolutely no difference in August?
I'm not, because I'm just tasked with bringing you the recommendations to make that recommendation.
Well, I know, and the recommendation
I
is.
could make some recommendations.
Well, I was going to say, you're recommending that we examine them.
Yeah.
Well, would you make a recommendation based on your examining
Well, I
and
said
studying what we should?
examine them and consider eliminating.
Right.
Okay, it says it on there, but it didn't say eliminate.
I think we're getting to crunch time where we don't start getting asked for some specific actions to make an effect in August. We're going to be spending money on magnet schools
Right.
that are not accomplishing the reason they were created, which is taking the money away, which will be the reason we can't buff up the offerings in our elementary schools. We don't need to examine that problem. We know it. I think what we need from you guys is how to fix it.
I mean, I think this is a good first
Can I-
step. I'm sorry, and I would say a year or so ago, y'all brought forward a list of a couple of partial magnets.
Chicora.
That didn't want to be partial magnets anymore, but we
Right, so
did.
now let's take the entire partial magnet schools and make a decision for 2019.
Yeah, I agree.
Can I just throw in just a quick idea that part of an issue I think that we have with when we talk about our schools is more sometimes perception versus reality. And I wish that we had like a template that we could give to the principals and PTA or SIC chairs at some of these schools that would say, you know, here are things that you guys could do to improve, you know, and there are things that Cindy could go down a list of stuff, but sometimes I think it's just, a lot of it is a perception. And I don't know the best way to solve that, but I think if we, and you all have too much to do, but if we had a template that would make it easier for principals and school leaders and parent leaders at their schools to go out there and recruit people for their own neighborhoods. So, and I see a puzzle look, I have an idea I can share with you, so.
And
Okay,
just prefacing my comment quickly with, I apologize to the crowd. I say we've only got two members of the public, Ms. Pat and Ms. Kara in the back. So to the rest of y'all who always have to sit and listen to us, I apologize. I'm impatient listening to board members. It's not because I don't care about it. I ask my questions ahead of time, and I'd love to discuss it all day long, but I don't need to hear all of us
Yeah.
opine.
Yep. We do not need to.
Point it, I mean, at the end of the day, we've really got to have, recommendations by, say, absolutely latest March, or they're not going to affect next year's.
February.
Not for magnet schools,
Next
we're
year's-
past.
Well, magnet school, yes. I mean,
This
but with
was their
respect to
opportunity.
anything else that we're going to do, you're sending out contracts in April. You're passing a budget in May, that anything that's got to be voted on and come through the committee has got to be February at the latest.
And I would venture to say most of the stuff that was brought today, they were thinking
and
about the
then-
budget when they presented it.
Yeah, tagging on to what Reverend Collins said, with integration and rigor is what he's talking about. We can go about it in a lot of different ways. This county's been set up, and with the active consolidation, intentionally creating, separate but equal schools, but they've never been equal. And if we can either keep doing the same thing or do something drastically different, and there's a couple ways to go about it, but, we can't have 6 middle school programs downtown and expect to have
Right.
equity at them.
Yeah,
I call the question?
Yeah, so,
thank you.
So who seconded? I don't know.
I'll second it.
Okay. All right, so the motion was, Julie, to approve the 10 recommendations listed in our packet.
So of the 10, none of them are actual actions that we're approving. They're all examine, look at, consider. I just want to be clear that when we vote yes or no on this, yes doesn't mean anything's actually going to get done. There's no board
Well, there are-
directive coming out of this, right?
There
There are
are
some
some. There are some.
Which ones are
Well,
those?
and
Number
the
one,
Huh?
number one.
Okay.
There's a number of them that have
What's the
specific
other ones?
action. Choice bear.
Paper option and how we do the entrance criteria. And the entrance criteria only affects the ones that have an entrance criteria.
Well, there's probably, and you think of the two big ones there, but there are others.
Well,
that
I know
are-
y'all are doing, there's a kind of a backwards one being done at St. Andrews. You know, and those, why aren't you making a motion to eliminate those?
I think you want to check them program by program.
Yeah, I think that we wanted to look at it program by program, and,
I agree, so, but I'm just saying, we all fought very hard to get here to talk about the big pictures, and we're being asked to approve things that are expand and consider, and you've got a board that's ready to say, we're not going to allow X, Y, Z, or we're going to change this because it's not working.
I don't know that I don't know that we have a board that's ready to do that. I think we have a board that's ready to take these 10 steps, and hopefully each month you all are gonna bring us more that we can do. So, I mean, that, we have a motion on the floor, and we called the question. So,
I vote. Has everyone voted?
yes, not yet.
I'm waiting on this green.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
And I think based on what we're hearing is, we do have some of the board who are ready to go further. So, let's go, let's go. Let's see
If
what
we don't
can
do it by March, you
well,
waste a year.
We've just sealed the deal for magnet schools in 2019. Because when's the magnet school application process
We're gonna
open?
push it back this year.
When's it open?
within 30 days of today, I think, right?
No,
And is there a board meeting before 30 days from today?
I thought you guys were pushing it back this year. So,
Ms. Jones is in the audience and I can ask her.
yep.
I can say that you're waiting for a timeline because all the scheduling of if they're going to be events for all schools, if they're going to be application assistance nights, all of that, and adjudicators, the community, we're not on that schedule which we would have been in the past because we're waiting.
So is there an option for this board to make a board directive to you guys to change partial magnets before 2019?
We could do it at the January meeting. There's
We
more.
can do it whenever we get
You
ready.
can come back with a
I
recommendation.
know you're saying that. I want to know the people who actually do the work. Are they saying that can be
Would you
done?
want to do that before we bring you a report program by program?
Well, I think program by program is a little bit into the weeds when we're talking about the fact that you've got schools in which if you live in a certain community, this is your school, and you've got other schools, if you live in a certain community, some of the kids go to this school and the rest of the school is open to everybody in the county. You can live next door to North Charleston Creative Arts Elementary School, and you will lose your seat to a kid from Allendale. And that's just one example, and I'm asking, are you willing, or is this board, I mean, those are the conversations I want us to be having. And I don't think, I use North Charleston Creative Arts because it just happens to be the one near my house, but that's not the only one. Any partial magnet by definition means there's an attendance zone, and every other seat is open to every kid in the county, not every kid who lives in that region. Are we ready to have those conversations?
I am.
Ms. Nichols, may I? Ms. Nichols, I was wondering if it's written that way so the staff can do a deeper dive, right? I mean, this gives us the license to go in there and do the deeper dive and bring back and update you on what we think we need to do, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, I think it would have been, I think, this came from the committee with, and the things that they wanted to look at. And so we can certainly go back now with knowing that you're in support of the direction that this is going, and take a look at every partial magnet and determine whether or not that is one that needs to be eliminated.
That sounds like a good plan.
That's great.
Do you want to add that to the motion as in number 11?
I think she's gonna do, I mean, I'm comfortable that she'll go and do that based on the feedback that we've provided today. And obviously, I mean, there's some board members that have maybe some specific ideas, and we should share those with you.
They've been in writing and in y'all's hands for 2 years.
We'll do it.
He'll do it. I mean, she'll get it done.
Okay. Thank you very much for your work, and thank the committee. Honors Framework approval for marching band.
Move to
Move to,
approve.
second.
Second.
Call the question. Y'all had no less than 15 phone calls in the last 3 weeks, and y'all couldn't figure out this
Good, good.
change the partial magnet status. How are you wasting your time on?
Yeah.
I'm talking, you were in those calls. I'm talking about you too, you know.
Hey, should we go, I mean, a lot of the discussion you're having, the people that are back in the back, it impacts, so I wish they would come
Well-
up and.
So do I. Go get them.
I just voted.
Okay.
I don't know.
What's next?
Operations.
That's it for strategic education.
Did everyone vote?
We'll know when she puts it on the screen.
Are you waiting on anybody?
No, it's.
Okay,
Yeah, there you go.
here you go. Okay.
You ready? This is the second part of a two-step process to ask for the board's approval for an honors level.
We approved it.
Just approved it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Miss Randall, it was the most
That concludes
amazing
the SEC.
proposal ever.
Great, thank y'all
Thank you,
so
thank you.
much. Kate, who's on?
He's, Mr. Miller's coming back.
Mr.
Mike
Miller,
Miller.
if he's gonna be back, or Todd can do it.
He's coming back.
Okay.
He's supposed to be coming.
They're not here.